Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the North Sydney Local Planning Panel. My name's Alison McCabe and I'm the Chair. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians that are on the various lands on which we meet today, the Camaragal people. I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Good afternoon, everybody. Today's panel comprises myself as the Chair, to my right, Ros Reid, to my immediate left, Ken Robinson, and to my far left, Mike Ryan. We also have council officers present in the room as well. I do not have any apologies for this meeting, and I have received declarations of interest from all the panel members, and just for the record, I'm going to go the rounds and just ask whether panel members have any interests.
No, I don't.
I don't have any interest to declare.
Nothing to declare.
Right.
No, nothing to declare.
Okay. Today's meeting is called to deal with three matters. The three matters that we're looking at is the development application at 11 Hipwood Street in North Sydney. Item 2 on the agenda is the development application at 85 Cremorne Road, Cremorne Point. And item 3 is the development application at 18 Grasmere Road in Cremorne. We're going to deal with each of those matters in turn as they turn up on the agenda. Each of those matters have a number of people registered to speak, and we'll be hearing from those who were registered, those who made submissions first, and then the applicant will be speaking after those people. I just want to make a few opening comments about how today will run. As you may appreciate, on the Teams environment that we're on, it's very important that everybody keep their devices on mute. Nobody is to speak unless I invite them to speak. As I said, that will be basically those people who have actually registered to speak. Today's meeting is being recorded. A copy of the recording will be uploaded to Council's website, generally within 2 days of the meeting. Just so you're aware, that may involve the recording of some personal information provided at the meeting, and the provision of that type of information is voluntary. The recordings are available to other persons where access is in accordance with the relevant regulations. As I said, there are a number of people registered to speak. Generally, those who made submissions have 3 minutes to make their presentation to the panel. And as I said, they'll be asked to speak first. We will then ask the applicant to speak, and I usually give them a little bit longer just to be able to respond to what they've heard. Not much longer, but just to be able to respond to matters that may have been raised. Just in terms of how you'll address the panel, please address your comments to us. It's really important that everybody just observe basic common courtesy. As I said, don't make any comments or presentations or speak over each other. It's important that you respect each other's opinions. Also refrain from making any inappropriate comments or reflections against either any person present or not at the meeting. It's also important to understand this isn't a debate. This is about the panel informing itself about the issues with each application and making sure that we understand those issues and the details of the application so that we can make an informed decision. Our job today is to consider the material presented to us in an unbiased and transparent way and to make decisions in accordance with our responsibilities under the planning framework applicable to development applications. So as far as the panel's concerned, we've probably seen a few of you on site, but we've actually visited the sites. and a number of the adjoining sites. We've also read council's report. We've had access to the detailed plans and documentation that was lodged with the application. We have copies, access to copies of all the submissions, in addition to council's summary of the submissions, and we also have hard copies in front of us of the submissions that have made for those people who have registered to speak today. So don't feel the need to repeat verbatim what is in your submission. Kind of taking us to those key points is sufficient, but as I said, it's in your hands how you present to the panel. Once we've gone through once we've heard from everyone and considered the three matters, we will then adjourn and close the meeting to the public for us to deliberate on what we've heard, consider the material and formulate our decisions on this matter. And then the minutes of the meeting and our decisions on each of the items will then be available on council's website, generally usually within 3 or 4 days of the meeting. So that's how today will run. I'm very happy for everyone to stay online and hear all the matters. Once I've finished with a matter, there will be no other discussion in public on that matter. So if you don't want to hang around, that will be fine as well. So with that, we're going to move to item 1, which is the proposal at, got that wrong? Yeah, no, it's wrong. At 11 Hipwood Street. That's right, North Sydney. Yep, yes, 11 Hipwood Street, North Sydney. Get my item 1 right. And this is a development application for alterations and additions to the heritage dwelling, including partial demolition at the rear of the dwelling and the construction of a rear extension. So this matter, I've got Andrew Ben, who is the architect for the application. Andrew, are you online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, great, your camera's on. I was just going to ask you to put your camera on. So Andrew, over to you. Happy to hear from you on this matter.
Thank you. Can you hear?
I can see you and hear you. Yep.
Look, I'm just here to address any questions, really. I think I have no further items to add to the current sort of set of drawings.
All right. Okay, then I think we've probably got just 1 or 2 questions, mainly about some detail on the drawing.
Yeah.
So I might start off with one and then I might get Roz to ask some questions about some pergolas. Yeah, just in respect to the, you've got an existing where is it? Existing lower ground floor plan. And then you've got a proposed, ground floor.
Yeah.
Existing lower ground floor and then proposed lower ground floor. Yeah, lower ground floor plan and then ground floor plan. I'm just wondering whether there's something missing on the ground floor plan in terms of where the stairs from that lower store area come up and land in relation to the new kind of outdoor terrace from the family room extension. Is there something, do you think there's something missing?
Yeah, I probably need to relay some lines onto the ground floor plan there. The intention is really to leave that basement as is, like it's a really rather ordinary space, and the client's intention is to just have it as a storeroom. Yeah. So, you know, I think the access into it, it's almost like it's going to be sort of left behind in a sense.
I was just, wondering, we're trying to figure out where the stairs, whether the intention is just to leave the stairs as they are, because they're going to come up and land into that outdoor space. We just wasn't sure how they sit with the new little terrace pergola-y area of the family. So I think there just needs to be a little bit of clarification there.
Yeah, okay, so the idea is that they land just next to the barbecue there. So they may need
If you've frozen
digging at the very top of the stairs.
I think it's house.
By, yeah, like by larger measure, they're meant to really stay as is. But they,
Yes.
obviously they'll need a bit of tweaking at the top. So the idea is that they land just next to the barbecue there. Is that, can you see where the barbecue is located?
Well, that presumably where the barbecue is located, that's probably going to be the landing, and then there's going to be steps coming up in a slightly northern parallel with the other steps. Yeah, okay. So
should I add some detail on the ground plan there?
look, we'll figure that. I just wanted to make sure that we were reading the plans correctly, but and the question was that I think what you've said to us is there's really no change to those stairs, that everything will adjust around them.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's clear to us. Ros, did you have any?
Yes, you've got what appears to be a circular awning just under the little Juliet balcony, the new one on the southern side. Yeah. Is that correct? A circular awning?
That's right, yes.
Right. We don't have a height on that. And
yeah, so if you go to, I'm just looking on my drawings as well. So go to drawing 2311 PO4.
Oh, yes, okay, RL 29.74.
Yeah.
So that's a little metal roofed cover.
Yeah, detailed around the edge is metal, and it would be detailed in a manner that kept as much bulk out of it as possible. So a lightweight.
Sorry?
Oh, it's frozen. Oh, because David's saying it's fine.
So I think probably a good description of what that would look like is then drawn on the side elevation. So that's PO8. So the intention is to keep that awning as thin and lightweight looking as possible.
PO8. So I can't. Here, yes, yeah. Okay. Then.
And also, I mean, it would be designed in a similar manner to how we'd handle that Juliet balcony off the side. So that would be steel work, you know, the classic sort of open steel balustrade with a steel structure to keep, again, that one as lightweight looking as possible.
And then you've got reference to pergola, open pergola frame above door. This is on PO4. Is that literally just a square, or is it like a pergola, or does it have slats across it? What's it made of?
Haven't gone that far to the material of that yet. It's probably steel, like the Juliet balcony and like the circular awning.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So is it going to have a roof kind of thing on it, or not, or literally just be open, like an open frame?
An open frame, yeah. So it's an open frame. So we still want light to come in this direction. So the intention is not to cover it and reduce the northwestern light that the house kind of needs quite badly.
So Andrew, sorry, we're just having a little bit of trouble with our connection. The answer to that was no, it's not going to be roofed.
No.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anything else? Mike or Ken, any queries or questions? No. Andrew, thank you very much. It was fairly straightforward in understanding what the application was. We've actually, as I said, we saw its relationship to the property next door and to Kiara Close as well, and understand that there have been some amendments made to the application, so to address some of the issues in terms of bulk and scale and overshadowing. So thank you for taking the time to present. We're going to not talk about this anymore and move on to item 2. So you're happy to hang on, or you can go on and go back to your day job.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item 2, which is the development application at 85 Cremorne Road, Cremorne Point. This is alterations and additions to an attached dual occupancy, including demolition of the existing garage structure and the construction of a new garage structure with studio above, landscape works and installation of roof. The installation of lift, sorry. Now we have a number of people registered to speak, so I'm just going to make sure you're all online. So I've got Mike Burnett. Mike, are you there? Yep. Thank you. Graham Brooks. Is yes. Graham there? Yep, see you, Graham. Adrian Maroa.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Good sound. And then from the applicant, I have Diana Quitter. Diana there?
Diane Quitner, yes.
Quitner, is it? Sorry.
That's right, yes, thank you.
And Graham Costello?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. See you, Graham. Bradley Widlers?
I'm here, yep.
Thank you, Bradley. And Tegan Flannery?
Yes, that's me. I'd like to speak first from our side.
Thank you. I will throw to you, Tegan, first once I've heard from everybody. Mike, you have the floor. As I've said, if you can contain yourself to about 3 minutes, that would be great. We have a few speakers, so very happy to hear from you. Mike?
I think Tegan wants to speak first.
I know Tegan's the applicant. She doesn't get to speak to it, but she can speak first for the applicant.
Yes, Mike, you're on mute.
Yeah. Mike,
you're on mute.
I can't see Mike. Is he? He's on there.
He's on the second sheet.
Yeah.
Once he talks, he should pop up.
Yeah. Mike?
He's off mute.
Oh, yeah. He'll not be in trouble. Mike, can you hear us? Is that him there?
Okay, thank you. Yes, it was stuck on mute. No, I think I can hear. Yes, can you hear me?
Can you hear and connection? Yeah, it's not a good.
Can you hear me
now?
now?
He's frozen on their end.
Right.
I have nothing to add at this time anyway. So,
Madam Chair, I might take up the cuddles.
Hang on, Graham. Sorry, I can now see Mike.
Okay.
And can you talk, Mike?
Yes, I have nothing to add at this time. So, but thank you for inviting me. That's it.
Sorry, Mike. We actually didn't hear anything that you said. If you said anything, so you were registered to speak. We've got your submission, but you don't have to speak if you don't want to.
Nothing to say at this time. Thank you.
Okay, and just so you understand, Mike, you're not going to get another time, so you don't get to talk again. All right?
Yes, understood. Right. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Graham, you're next on my list.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My name is Graham Brooks. I'm the Director of GBA Heritage, and I prepared 2 objections, one for the original, one to the supplementary on behalf of the adjoining neighbours. And so if I can speak on their behalf, essentially having reviewed the officer's report for the local panel, we endorse the recommendation for refusal and commend the report to the panel. We support it utterly and completely. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Graham. And can you just, for the record, just which neighbours did you prepare your submission for?
Mike Burnett, Beth Patterson, and where's he gone?
That's all right. Is it the
Adrian?
flat
Adrian,
building?
I think, yeah, Adrian Murray. Oh, sorry, they're the adjoining owners to the south. Yes.
All right, thank you. I understand where that one is coming from. Okay, Adrian Maroya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have anything to add to what Graham has just said, other than to say that the adjoining owners are grateful to the council officers for the work that they've put into preparing an obviously careful and comprehensive report. I have really not much to add other than to say that we commend the report to the panel. The adjoining neighbours support the resolution which is proposed, and we support its adoption by you as the panel.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Adrian. I'm just going to check, panel members, whether there's any questions of any of the submitters before I move on to the applicant. Now, thank you, all of those submitters. As I said, we do have your comprehensive written submissions as well. So thank you. Tegan, you've got, there's 4 people registered to speak. So I'm making you in charge of everybody. So if you can direct traffic, very happy to hear from you guys.
Thanks. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time today, panel out on site. Following that inspection this morning, I trust that you all have a much fuller appreciation of the context and the character of Carrilla Lane, which does frame much of our discussion and of the proposal before you. I represent the homeowners, Graham and Diane. They've been at the site and lived there for the past 35 years. Our proposal really originates from straightforward necessity. Number one, it was to create car spaces that are compliant with the Australian standards, where the homeowners can comfortably exit their vehicle within their property and not from the laneway. And number two was to provide that.
Broken off.
Yeah. Sorry, Tegan, we've got a very bad connection. So can you just repeat probably the last sentence?
Yeah, sure. I said that I represent the homeowners and they've lived there, Graham and Diane, for nearly 35 years, and that the proposal pretty much originated from essentially straightforward necessity, where number one, it was to create car spaces that are compliant with the Australian standards, where Graham and Diane can get in and out of their cars within their site rather than from the laneway. And number two was to provide level access from the parking to their home. So it's not merely just a desire for improvement, but also just a critical need for accessibility. When we read Council's assessment report, their portrayal of Carrilla Lane as a predominantly low to single story scale is, we consider, a significant oversight. It's, as you would have seen this morning, it's highly evident that the laneway is a diverse architectural reality with multiple 2-story structures and various modern adaptations. There's a stark juxtaposition between the Cremorne Road frontage and Carrilla Lane, which are both considered heritage conservation area, and there is a lot of structures along Carrilla Lane with significantly greater bulk and scale than our proposal. I'm also speaking to you today on behalf of our heritage planner, who is unfortunately unable to attend. But essentially the sentiment from our assessment of that is that we really designed this carefully in terms of the heritage character. We've not only acknowledging that, yes, our site is a contributor item, but that is the dwelling itself, not the garage. And we've reflected this within the amended proposal. We've reflected the interwall style of the dwelling with elements such as the hipped roof and the terracotta tiles. The existing garage on the site has undergone significant alterations, over time, and not only have it detracted from its original construction, but it's also left it in a somewhat deteriorated state. And there's a lot of compromised structural integrity as well. We feel that our design is sensitive to the existing character of the Cremorne Road Heritage Conservation Area and what the practicalities are of Carrilla Lane as a servicing to provide car parking to those sites along Cremorne Road. We think that actually the proposal would set really positive precedent by demonstrating that you can facilitate modern development within a HCA that with a design that enhances rather than detracts from the heritage value of the area. The issue with the tree removal has been met with particular contention. We've had exhaustive discussions with council and very detailed submissions and RFI process to demonstrate that the retaining the tree would conflict with any upgrades to parking on site to improve accessibility. And there's been little acknowledgement of any of these as valid reasons for its removal. The structural root zone and the tree protection zones directly impact any feasibility of redevelopment at the site. And that's unfortunately, I've also detailed in my late submission a little bit more on that, but how much we've tried to demonstrate to council that any works to the garage, retention or new works is going to impact the tree. The project essentially involves replacing existing two-car garage and carport with a two-car garage and carport under a new pitch.
Well, I've got IT here. This is going to keep happening.
Yeah. So what do you want to do?
Sorry.
Tegan, just hang on a second. I'm just going to have a check on our IT issue to see what's going on. Can you just mute us for the moment? Yeah. Everybody who's just on the line, I'm just going to adjourn for 2 or 3 minutes while we just see if we can sort out this IT. So please just stay on the line. I'm going to mute and turn our cameras off while we sort this. Thank you. We can. Thank you everybody for hanging on. We've just hopefully we've sorted our problem. Tegan, you're talking about the cheese tree and structural root zones and tree protection zones. So,
do you want me to take it back to there?
Yeah.
Okay. So just following on, I was saying how the issue of the tree removal, despite despite efforts, we've had exhaustive discussions and detailed submissions to council to show that retaining the tree would conflict with any necessary parking or accessibility improvements at the site, and that we just haven't really had any feedback to date from council to acknowledge any sort of valid reasons why the tree can't be removed. We've really clearly demonstrated that the SPZ, the structural root zones and the tree protection zones, that any works to the existing structure through retention or a new structure is going to impact the tree. And so to summarise, our project essentially involves replacing an existing 2-car garage and carport with a 2-car garage and carport under a new pitched roof. Despite our efforts, we're a bit of a loss as a project team to understand how we can find a viable solution to suit council's feedback. We wanted to sort of illustrate the severity of this, and at the inspection this morning you would have witnessed how we park cars in the garage as well to show how restricted the space is and that you can't exit and get in and out of your cars at the site, and that council's recommendation refusal on this is going to have a really significant impact for us, because effectively the garages are unusable and the structure continues to deteriorate. And the owners, they want to be able to stay in the property, and they're going to be soon faced with having to rely on street parking, which isn't a good result in the locality. And we urgently sort of need to address this situation. And our proposal, we feel that it really does respect both the heritage value and obviously the practical requirements of modern living. But yeah, thank you for considering us. Bradley, one of our architects, is going to speak as well as our owner, Diane. But yeah, we're happy to answer any further questions as well.
All right, okay, thank you, Tegan. We'll probably won't have questions at this stage. So I've got Bradley's also registered to speak, so happy to hear from you, Bradley, but I don't need you to go back over what Tegan's gone through.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just to add really to Tegan's point, I just wanted to just reiterate in a very short way about how, as architects in the design, we've really tried to respond to the feedback we got from both the community and the objections on the original DA, as well as council's own consultants. I think we've significantly changed the original design in terms of its materiality, its bulk and scale, and its just general setbacks and layout, especially of the upper space. And I think that even with the tree, we tried to plant more trees, even though when you came to site, so we have some very significant palm trees all throughout the property. I think we have more trees than anyone on the street. But yeah, I just wanted to show that we've really been trying to show a willingness to respond and respond positively. And we just like, again, that opportunity to see this project to some sort of viable solution for both yourselves and also for our client. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bradley. Diane and Graham, I know you're on the same link. Happy to hear from one or both of you, but again, don't need you to repeat what Tegan and Bradley have said.
Thank you.
And sorry, Diane, I'm just going to again take 2 or 3 minutes while we're having another go at another Wi-Fi network. We're still getting a bit of interruption. So if you can just hold on, I'm going to put us on. I'm going to adjourn again for a few minutes before I ask you to speak. So hopefully we'll get a clear run in a few minutes.
I'm turning it back on. Okay, so to go. Okay, bye.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I think we might have hopefully found the issue. Diana and Graham, happy to hear from you. Hopefully it's a bit of a clearer connection now.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, that's very good. And we can see you.
Good. Well, first of all, thank you so much to everybody, all the feedback from our neighbours and from council. I just wanted to give the human aspect of what it's like to live in this beautiful place that I've been in for 35 years, but to say that I don't feel safe when I come home at night. Just to explain to the panel that this is what it's all about. It's not so much about the technicality that Tegan's covered on the standards for garage sizes or functionality and accessibility, but what that actually means for me is whenever we come home, I get deposited in the back lane. Sometimes I'm holding up traffic. Other times I am concerned that a car's going to hit us while my husband is then reversing into the garage and I'm walking in. Conversely, when we want to go anywhere, I have to go out into the back lane and wait till the car has exited the garage in order to be able to enter it. Now, right now, I'm not quite as old as I hope to be. I'm planning to stay there well into my old age. I understand the requirements of old age because I've been looking after elderly parents. I've had spinal surgery, knee reconstruction, all of which causes me some grief. So, for example, when the panel were there today, they might have noticed that one side of the car was possible to access, the one that was in our garage, that was the passenger side. But if the car is reversed into the garage and I as a passenger can get out, it means the driver can't. And conversely, if the driver can get out, the passenger can't. So this is the reality that I'm living with, and I really have a plea, I guess, to anyone who can help us to find a solution so that we can safely and appropriately stay in our home. And I just wanted to explain that is actually absolutely what we're dealing with. The fact that the accessibility then when we get out of the garage and try to make our way to the house, there's all different levels. We're hoping to improve on that, but it's primarily this garaging, which is a real problem. And I think Mike Burnett, who I can see is online, he would certainly agree because he sees me standing out there in the back lane all the time, that this is the reality of living in otherwise a wonderful place, which I really appreciate. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Diane. Graham, did you have anything to add?
No, I once again, thank you very much for all the people who made submissions and the council's input. I think we've incorporated that. To me, the logic is relatively simple in that we would like to live here until elderly and have access, potentially wheelchair access or disabled access to our cars. And that's why there's a lift, there's level access, etc. And then the whole issue of the tree is like, well, unfortunately, the tree, you can't do anything without damaging the tree. So the logic there is, if you're going to do anything at all, unfortunately, the tree has to go. So look, I just finish off by saying thank you very much. We've had quite a lot of people help us, and appreciate the council coming out today and spending so much time looking around the site. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Graham and Diana. I'm just going to see if the panel members have got any questions of the applicants team. Mike.
I understand, no doubt, you've read council's report and you're across the issues that council's assessment team have identified in that report. Can I ask what attempts or to what level has consideration been given as the applicant, the team there that you've got, to addressing those concerns? Because when I sit on these panels, council's assessment has one opinion, the applicant has another opinion. Ideally, it's good to get a win-win situation. It's a matter that I'd like to hear from you specifically, not a repeat of what we've just heard, but what consideration have you given? And like, for example, in the summary of the report, some of the items where the proposal doesn't comply with the DCP include site coverage, unbuilt upon area, and landscape areas. Now, who's the best to address that?
I'm happy to address those points. This DA's been in for quite some time, and our first round of feedback that we got from council was, I think, back in sort of February, March time, where I'm not sure if the council even have, the panel even have copies of the original design, but essentially it was a very different upper roof form, and it was a triple garage. And so the feedback that we got was predominantly heritage based, and it talked about the character of the laneway and how it didn't feel like the upper level addition really fit within the heritage conservation area. And we sat down with council, we presented different options for how the roof form could look like. We presented like three or four different sketches and 3D images to show sort of what the pitch and different variations of what the top roof form was going to look like. I'm sure Brad could probably talk into more of the detail if you need for that. But essentially, a lot of the initial conversations with council were very much heritage driven, and then it was also sort of a lack of information as well, that council hadn't really been able to assess when the garage was constructed. And so there was a lot of discourse around, is the garage original to the property or is it not original? So there was a lot of back and forth talking about that, because as it says in the DCP, like original garages and structures, they strive to be retained. So as part of that, like, we went into much more detailed response in terms of the heritage, and our heritage planner redid their HIS to address and put all this research back to council to sort of talk about the heritage. There weren't any concerns raised at that time about the sort of private open space level, and there was raised a couple of points about in terms of their site coverage, and at that point, I don't think the landscaped area or the unbuilt upon area had really been picked up at that point. But I think the sentiment around that was that we knew that the sort of the major issue was heritage, and also within that RFI process, it was also about the tree. So it was, have you considered how you could possibly retain the structure and then also maintain the tree? So when we went away and did that RFI response, we were talking with our arborist. We were saying, what works could we do around the tree? We looked at options for trying to retain it, but essentially the sentiment was that the tree is just so close to the garage where it's been planted that any works to the external walls, elevations, it's going to impact the tree. It was just put in a really insensitive location to plant a tree of that size to the garage after the garage had already been built. And we've sort of talked through this at length with council. Robin, the assessment officer, knows that we've been following up on this for quite some time to really get some solid feedback from council to see how we can work and how we can improve the scheme to try and address some of the issues. Coming back around to the sentiment about landscape area and site coverage, yes, there are non-compliances here, but I think that we've really documented it. We haven't tried to shy away from the fact that there are non-compliances there. But when you look at the existing and the proposed, we're talking the difference of 1 or 2, 3%. Like, I think if you look in the broader context, and if looking at what the objectives are for site coverage, landscaped area, unbuilt upon, site coverage, is designed to sort of limit the number of structures on site to make sure that you have enough landscaping. And actually this proposal, we're going to be creating a more usable private open space area. We're going to be putting in better landscaping that's actually going to provide a more usable area. Yes, there is going to be an increase in non-compliance, but looking at the context and the merits of the proposal, you look at, well, okay, we're going to be providing compliant car parking on the site for the owners, accessibility. There are all these benefits that I feel is largely outweighs, and there's a really strong justification to support a couple of percentage points increasing it and already existing non-compliance.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I don't think we've got any other questions. I just rest assured the panel does understand the desire to stay on site and age in place. So as I said, we'll be looking very carefully at the balance of the issues. So we do understand that desire, but also we've, as I said, our job's to look at the heritage aspects and the landscape aspects and the potential impacts or otherwise of the proposal as well. So with that, I'm going to close the discussion on this matter. We won't be talking about this in public, and as I said, we'll make our deliberations once I close the meeting. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to move on to item 3, which is the development application at 18 Grasmere Road, Cremorne, for the demolition of the existing dwelling, construction and strata subdivision of an attached dual occupancy and landscaping and associated works. I've got 3 submitters registered to speak on this matter. I've got Dr. Barbara Briggs, Gary Jung and Stephen Q. I think that's right. And then we've got the applicants, owners and architects, Andrew Murphy, architect, and Shabana Meetha and Peter Feidler as the owners. So hopefully everyone's online. Dr. Briggs, you're first up. You're on top of my list. So very happy to hear the matters that you want to raise with the panel. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, and a number of you appreciate, we've been to the site, so we understand when you tell us about your backyard.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can, and we can see you. So if I ask you to stop, it because our screens are frozen. We're still having a few technical issues.
Thank you. I'm the owner of 19 Earl Street, Cremorne. That is the rear fence neighbour of the property in question. My main concern is the privacy of my living room and kitchen, which are at the rear of my house, and the extent to which the proposed building would overlook my backyard. It would be a much taller building than we've had in that area, and the slope of the land adds to the extent of overlooking. The council officer's report addresses the privacy of neighbours to the sides of 18 Grasmere Road and opposite across the road, but does not comment on privacy to the rear, which would affect my property and to some extent a couple of others in Earl Street. In reporting on privacy for the units across the road in Grasmere Street, indeed, it states that all living areas would face north, that is, facing my property. I do not understand why the rear setback of 18 Grasmere Road has been reported to be compliant when there is mention of 10 metres minimum, but the plans show a setback of 8.698 metres. The closer the proposed building is to my place, the more it will affect privacy. I do also have some concern that the additional hard surfaces or larger hard surface at 18 Grassmere will add to an existing stormwater problem. After rain, we commonly have stormwater running across the intersection of Earl and Graftmere Streets, which, if you turn left from Earl Street, is quite an acute corner. However, I understand that the council engineer considers this as satisfactory, so I don't pursue that point, but rather would emphasise these privacy matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Briggs. I'll just check if anyone's got any questions. No, as I said, we've been to site, so we understand that those building relationships. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Gary Yung? Yep.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can we see you or not?
I'm in a location where there's a few other people who probably may not would like to be on camera. Sorry.
No problem.
Thanks for the time. I'm on 16 Grasmere Road. I'm to the east. To the west of the property of 18 Grasmere. We have, I guess, our main concerns are predominantly to do with the bulk and scale of the development. The development that is being proposed is a 3-story development, which creates a significant bulk and scale that is, I guess, in excess of what is in harmony with the properties that are existing adjacent to, plus basically up and down Grasmere Road in the section that we're on. The bulk and scale creates an impact on our property in terms of access to light, but also the issues with privacy into our backyard. Their west-facing windows have a better view of my backyard than I do. And I have a swimming pool there, which it would be appreciative if we could maintain some semblance of privacy in that area. The other aspect that would be of concern to us is the fact that contributing to that bulk and scale is the fact that it's a flat roof design, which is really not in keeping with what's on the street. We believe that obviously if that bulk and scale were to be wound back to what would be deemed to be harmonious and compliant with the rest of the street, then I think everybody would be much more comfortable. And I'm not objecting to the fact that they're wanting to develop the property. I think that's a great idea. I'm just hoping that we can do it in a reasonable and harmonious manner.
All right, thank you, Gary. Thanks for that. And as I said, we got to your property, so we understand those relationships as well. I don't think there's any questions of the panel for you. Stephen?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you, which is good. So over to you.
Great. Dear Chair and panel members, my name is Steve Kwa, and I'm the neighbour at 20 Grasmere Road, directly next door to the proposed development. So thank you all for visiting on site this morning. We have several significant concerns to address, but I want to preface those with our concern of the general bulk, mass and scale of the proposed building, just like with Dr. Barbara Briggs and Gary. Just to reiterate, the build has 3 levels, a basement, what they call a ground, and first floors. And it is important to note that the proposed ground floor level is on par with our first level. This fact further emphasizes all our issues to do with the bulk, the scale, privacy, and solar access. So firstly, our concern of the rear setback. The proposal's rear setback is much shorter, meaning that their property will stick out further than not only our house, but the other neighbours on the other side at Gary's at number 16, and in fact the whole street up and down Grasmere Road, as he also mentioned. The minimum as prescribed by the North Sydney Local Environment Plan is 10 metres. However, the proposed build has a rear setback of 8.7 meters. That's a whole 1.1 meter further out than the rule. Now, this may not seem like a lot, but as the chair and the panel witnessed from their visit to our property this morning, this is significant due to the build's ground level being at the same level as our first floor, with their northern alfresco and ground floor balcony wall blades towering at just shy of 6 meters. So if you can imagine, I've got this diagram here, and it has been submitted as well formally to you guys. It's probably not showing very well, but anyway, there would be this dark...
We've got that in front of us, Stephen.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can imagine, their basement and ground level is this dark grey color. So there would be a dark solid wall sticking out further than our patio line and essentially coming all the way up to our first floor level. This raises serious concerns, again, about bulk and scale directly impacting our residential and solar amenity and just really the enjoyment of our home. We would like to see the rear setback amended to comply with the prescribed requirements to minimize these effects. Secondly is the side setback. Similar to the rear setback, the side setbacks have also been breached. The design's curved projections flare out closer to our boundary. We are mostly concerned about the northeast and, for the neighbors on the other side, the northwest corners, as these curvatures on their basement ground floors that go up to a height of 6 meters, meaning for us, all the way up to our first floor level. Again, there would be this dark solid wall sticking out further than our patio line and coming all the way up to our first floor level. And on top of that, at the corners, they curve outwards and even closer to our boundary. Similarly, their first floor design also includes these curved projections that flare outwards towards us. Now, like we're reasonable people. You know, we've developed our property as well. Like we've been here for over 30 years. And usually we're not one to be a stickler for measurements, if reasonable. But these walls are going to be so huge and jut out not only to the north towards Dr. Barbara Briggs, but also to the east and west, and then all the way up. It's just very hard to ignore. And these sides, again, will block our solar access and intensify the bulk and scale. So next is the concern of visual privacy, which I think Barbara also mentioned, that the council officer addressed some privacy for us, being the side neighbors. However, it actually overlooks the critical sight lines that I pointed out at the site visit this morning, which is to our ground level windows and the proposed ground level windows at the site, that they will look directly into our ground floor openings. Now, in previous objections, we've asked for this to be detailed, but it's just, I don't know, maybe they just haven't responded to our request there. So essentially their ground level being even to our first level means that residents will be able to see down into our kitchen, living and dining areas. And this severely impacts our privacy. We request that the sill heights are raised to something over 2 meters, similar to other properties around the neighborhood, or installing external fixed louvers and or frosting on the windows. All these issues are of high importance to us, not only to maintaining our residential amenity, but also to preserving the character of our neighborhood and avoiding setting such precedents for any future developments. I also would like to point out that the applicants have not addressed any of their objection points that were submitted previously. We urge the panel to reconsider the proposal in light of all of these concerns and hope that an understanding of the sheer bulk and scale of the proposed building could be visualized from the site today. So thanks again for your time and efforts to visit our properties this morning so you could experience firsthand. Your understanding of our situation is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'm just going to check whether there's any queries or questions at panel members. No, I think as I said, we spent some time on your site. So for all those submitters that we went to the site, we did pull out some additional information in relation to survey plans and plans on the adjoining property as well. So rest assured we've understood your concerns. So I'm going to move on to the applicant and their representatives. So Andrew Murphy, I understand you're the architect for the scheme. So in your hands as to whether you want to speak first or whether the owners of the site want to speak first. But happy to hear.
Yeah, I'm happy to address. I wasn't actually going to say anything. I thought that we've been working with Jim for the last 3/4 of a year to sort of cover a lot of the concerns that have been raised in relation to the report that he's covered already. I don't want to sort of repeat everything that he's just said in his report. As you've said earlier, you've read all that information. No need to rehash. But yeah, we've just made considerate changes to the plans over the last close to a year that have tried to address all these issues. Yeah, we hope that it will be put forward for approval. And yeah, the client would definitely like to address. It's a personal home.
Well, I might just hold off on questions of you at the moment to see whether your client wants to speak. I've got, I hope I'd say this right, Shabana.
Shabani, yep, that's it.
Shabani. Shabani, are you there?
I am, thank you.
Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, that would be great, please. I just wanted to make more of a general statement regarding the consent to build my home. So my parents similarly have lived in the area since the 80s, and I was born and raised in the area for over 30 years. So similarly, I've decided to stay, raise a family and look after my aging parents all in Cremorne, and with Peter's help, by becoming a co-owner, I was able to do so. So this is my home, not a development and not a development of units. And after buying the property, I've lived there for over a year, but had to leave to take care of my mum due to her illness. Andrew from Design Corp, who is just on the call as well, and also a landscape architect, has really supported us, as well as Jim from the council, to incorporate multi-generational living with a lift, access to the backyard, to ensure that my parents, including my disabled mum, can stay there, as their current house is no longer suitable for her requirements as her health deteriorates. Like many, I can understand that change can be unsettling. So we've really tried to have a balancing act to ensure that we can address council's concerns, ensure there is minimal impact to my future neighbours, because I will be here for a long time, as possible, as well as providing a comfortable home for my family and my parents as they go through a different phase in their life. We have already changed a number of aspects of the home at a significant cost to us to try and find that balance between the three that I spoke about. But unfortunately, every change solves one person's query, but offends someone else. And reading through the public submissions, I initially thought I wasn't going to make a statement, but quite frankly, I think I'm a bit floored by some of the commentary coming in from my future neighbours, particularly when we think about the high side of the street, it's R4 zoning, and objecting to a low density build like my home. The streetscape that a lot of people have alluded to was changed decades ago with the introduction of units and duplexes, including 14, 20 and 22. So you would have seen in the site visit this morning. And trees and houses have been removed to build units. But unfortunately, I think I've also had to realise that that's what progress looks like. So finding that balance is important to me. And I'd like to thank the panel members for listening, and I'd love to pass to Peter, who'd like to say a few words regarding the transplantation of the trees, if there's no questions.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, panel. My name is Peter Fiedler. Having been a horticulturist for several decades, including at Star City, I have seen firsthand where transplantation has worked and also where it hasn't, due to it being traumatic for the tree. The primary issue with the Acontophoenix cunninghamii, or the bangalow palms as we'll call in the future, is the size of the root ball to relocate them. There are quite a few which are on boundaries, and that when they're transplanted, the root ball of the palms would require to be about 2.5, probably even up to 3 meters in diameter. We've got one palm tree that's neighbouring to number 20. It's right on the fence line. To dig that one up, you're literally going 1 metre or 2 into the neighbour's property. The other bangalow palms, which are like matchsticks right at the front, they're right on the front fence. To relocate them, we probably would have to look at digging up the footpath, because you cannot have a small root ball. The palms just would not survive. And we're really risking the health of the trees, making the transplantation in this situation impractical. Being very close to the fence line, we would like to look at an alternative. The other problem is, I believe, and I think Andrew might clarify this, we can't dig, I think, 1/2 metre within the boundary of our neighbours, which would be an issue with one of the palm trees if we had to relocate it. And I think that's palm number 13, because the actual trunk is touching the neighbour's brick fence. With council's objectives and residents' concerns in mind, we propose, rather than the relocation of the bangalow palms, having them replaced with new native trees or with new bangalow palms with a 75-litre pot size or a 100-litre pot size, which is the same as those we are planting within the property. Despite being natives, unless amongst the landscape of other fern-like plants, the palms look out of place and don't provide much canopy coverage, so it would be better to plant trees with a standard canopy. These bangalow palms will grow over time, and until then, the people in the units can continue to enjoy the view they are concerned about. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, but otherwise, Andrew's online and hopefully can help you there. Thank you.
Well, I might just, Peter, while you're just talking about trees, I'm just trying to understand your presentation. There are a series of conditions in relation to trees in the report, some of which are requiring retention and transplantation.
Yes, yep, transplanting, yep.
I'll mangle that word. I'm just not sure. Are you raising concerns about those conditions and you don't want to do that, or you want to do something else? Is that how I'm understanding that?
Yeah.
Submission?
Because I don't think the palms will survive the move, because we just cannot create a big enough root ball, because what we would have to disturb in the process.
Yeah.
To be able to put them in the new situation which has been suggested to us.
Yeah. So the report, just top of mind, talks about moving some and clustering them to the western part of the property, and then there's, I think, the landscape plan might be putting some others in the back. So
exactly right. Yep.
Are you saying, just so the panel understands this presentation, because I haven't got anything in writing, that your preference is not to transplant any, I'm going to call them palms, any of the plants because of the root ball and difficulty in, or the unlikely scenario that they will survive.
That they would actually survive. Exactly that. And especially as quite a few of them are right on a boundary fence.
Yeah.
We would have to go into the neighbour's property, and then the front ones you would have to probably dig up the front council footpath.
All right. Okay. I think we understand. I think we understand that submission.
We have sorry to interrupt. Have no objection to planting new plants, keeping it green. As I said, horticulture is my background. I've done it all my life. Fortunately, I'm retired now, but it's a matter of what's the best solution to be able to facilitate this.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm going to go back to Andrew and probably open up from the panel some questions. So I might start with one, Andrew. We've heard from the submitters about the requirement in council's controls for 10-metre setback. So I'm just wondering how you've analysed or see how you do or don't comply with that from the rear.
Sure. So some time ago, Jim raised that as a concern and asked for additional dimensions to be added onto our plans to show where the setbacks lay, because we were only dimensioning from the balconies back. We had then added dimensions for the build form, so that it's the rear wall of the building back to the boundary. Once he had seen that, he was satisfied, and he didn't see any further concerns. So we didn't proceed with any further changes after that. So for us, that was where that concern stopped. We would, with Shivani and Peter's sort of okay, I would be happy to explore some sort of operable privacy screening possibly along the rear. I don't think that's necessary for the master bedroom. I think the master bedroom should be set back 10 metres already. Yep. The balcony for the master bedroom is set back more than 10 metres, and being a bedroom, you would expect maximum 2 occupants on there at one time, being from a private space. The balcony downstairs, we would be okay with some operable privacy screens. And on the lower level, that rear terrace space is actually semi-underground and steps up back up to natural ground level. So once again, the rear wall of the built form, the actual building itself where the habitable room is 10 metres from the boundary. But that's just like having an open patio on that lower level that is within 10 metres of the boundary. I think if you check section 8, you'll be able to see that in detail, basically.
All right, well, I think I'm just going to flag, it's going to be that setback and compliance with council's controls is something that the panel is going to be spending a bit of time looking at, and all elements of the building in relation to that. I'm just trying to just make sure I understand on both your eastern and western elevations, we've got some highlight windows. Yes. I'm just trying to see, I'm not sure what's the sill height of those windows?
The sill height of those is 1,500.
1,500.
So, yeah, typically what we do when we know that there can be a privacy concern, there's a window and door schedule. Sorry, let me direct you.
Yeah, it's all right. I was actually looking for it on the plan, but Roz has pointed out.
Page. I don't know my page numbers here. You've got
it's all right. Yeah. It's found it in schedule. I was just looking, as I said, I was looking for it.
F6
on the plan. Okay, I understand that.
Yeah. So typically, I guess the understanding would be that 1,500 would satisfy in most circumstances, and that's the sort of standard we go to maintain privacy. Obviously, 1,500 is still a fair height from floor level still. I don't expect that should cause too many concerns. I think raising to 2 metres, as was suggested by one neighbour, would be too high.
All right, thank you for that. Panel members, queries, questions, comments? Mike?
Yeah. Andrew, can you confirm on the first floor plan, the plan shows the rear setback to the edge of the balcony is 10.698 metres? Is
Yes.
that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And then you go to the ground floor, 10.68 is back to the sliding doors to the dining room.
Yep.
And the ground floor balconies are at 8.68, 8.698. So they're the 2 metre balcony. So the first floor balconies comply.
Mm-hmm.
The ground floor balcony does not.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
So as I explained earlier, when we were working with Jim, the council officer, He had raised concerns that that should be the requirement. We had provided the dimensions to him, and he had expressed that it wasn't going to be an issue, and that the 10 metres was the smaller setback to the balconies wasn't a problem. So we didn't progress any further with any further amendments.
Okay, so following on from that, just explain from an architectural viewpoint the wings. We heard from one of your neighbours, he said they're going to be dark grey wings.
Mm-hmm.
Why, if there's a solid wall either side of the balcony, why are they there?
Just purely to provide a base to the building. As to why they're dark and not a light brick, there's sort of reference to darker brick buildings within the area rather than going with a lighter brick, which is now more on fashion rather than the darker bricks, but we chose to be a bit more sensitive to the darker brick dwellings. Why they fan out was purely aesthetically. We wanted to provide the side walls to the balconies to maintain privacy. That was very important from the get-go. Yeah, just a little bit of flair was added to them, just to add some interest.
Okay, right, good, thank you. No further questions.
Any questions, Ross? Ken, any question? Thank you, Andrew, for that. We don't have any other queries or questions. As I said, we've understand the plans and their relationship to adjoining properties. As I said, you can see from our questions that setback from the rear particularly is something that we're going to be looking at very closely. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to come out today to make the presentations to the panel. They're very important for the panel to understand the key issues with these applications. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, we're going to take on board what we've heard, and we have all the written submissions as well as all the documentation lodged with the applications, which we've had the opportunity to review. So with that, thank you, everybody. I'm going to close the meeting to the public, and we're going to go into deliberation. So everybody can go back to their day jobs. Thank you, everybody.